Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. This is part 2 of showing off some plants from the Southern Living Plant Collection, Encore Azaleas, Sunset Plant Collection. You can go back and watch that first video. There's rows and rows and rows of material here that's been set up to show off to growers and get people fired up to grow some of these new and exciting things that are coming along. And then also on display are many of the things that are in the collection, have been in the collection for a while, just showing them off, just, you know, looking absolutely fantastic here. I've got a lot of these things in the landscape at the house, and I have a lot of individual videos for these things that you're seeing here. So if you search my name in that plant that I'm showing you, there's probably a full-length video that's longer than 30 seconds. If I remember, as I'm going around, I'm getting close to the tag so you can see the name of it, where it's hardy, and that kind of thing. So let's jump right into it. The second row over there, and then begins a row of Encore Azaleas. And of course I'm down here at this time of the year and they're back in bloom again, and just really getting started. They'll bloom like crazy on these cooler nights in the south for just weeks and weeks in the fall. And Autumn Fire, I have this one. Weirdly, this is my exact same setup as I have in the back garden. I have an Autumn Fire on the right, and I have an Autumn Bonfire in a container on a table. You can see, let me get this close to the sun for Bonfire. There's not a lot of information on here, but I do have a video on the channel for Autumn Bonfire. Fire stays a little bit more compact than Bonfire, but they're both red. They both bloom like crazy, both hardy in the zone 6 to 10. And then there's Autumn Lily, and my Autumn Lily had just started reflowering at the house before I left. But all three of these I have together, weirdly: Autumn Fire, Autumn Lily, and Autumn Bonfire. I think that's Autumn Lily. There's no sign in it, but that's what it looks like. There are several whites in the collection, so I may have that wrong. I have to skip the next ones, and I'm gonna, frustrate folks, but I'm gonna skip over to here and not show you. Let me see. There's 1, 2, 3. Or 4 that are upcoming varieties over the next few years, and it takes a while to build up numbers on these newer ones, but they're really fantastic new varieties coming to the collection all the time. I think there's 33 varieties in the collection now. The last 2 that were added are actually Autumn Starburst, and Autumn Starburst was the reverse of one that was already available called Sunburst. And Sunburst had the pink kind of on the outside and the white in the center. This one has the pink in the middle and the white on the outside, and somebody will describe that color as different, but coral pink, I guess. But what a great plant, super compact. I have 3 of these and 2 Sunburst planted together. They should be blooming by the time I am back home, actually. And then Autumn Majesty, this is the purple that was released a couple years ago, and great compact plant. I've got one of these in the front garden. It's about 2 feet tall and 2 feet wide, and I haven't pruned it, and it's a perfect little round ball. Flowered like crazy in the spring. It has not started yet going into fall. We've been dry, and so I think that my Encores have been a bit delayed by just waiting for some water, which we finally got from Tropical Storm Ian when it got to my area. Here's some much larger container Starburst and Majesty. Look at the big old giant 7-gallon ones just getting going, and I'll get close to this tag on Majesty because I didn't do it on the other side. But again, like I say, there are some really exciting new varieties coming as well. Snowbank Clean Sweep Indian Hawthorne. So this is the Clean Sweep series. This variety is called Snowbank. I showed this. I've got one of these in the front garden. I don't know that there's probably a whole lot of availability on this plant yet, but this is an extremely disease-resistant Indian Hawthorne. Low growing, perfect little mounding habit. Mine is a foot tall and 2 feet wide. Bloom like crazy in the spring with white flowers, and the new growth on it is kind of a reddish hue to it, and then becomes really just a great little dark green mounding habit. No maintenance, blooms in the spring, but we've had a long time problem on leaf spot issues on a lot of our Indian Hawthorne, dwarf Indian Hawthorne varieties. But this one seems to have solved that. These are being overhead irrigated, and there's not a spot on them. And the humidity here in the Gulf, between the humidity and overhead irrigating them, you'd definitely be seeing spotting on the leaves if they weren't disease resistant. There's a hydrangea here that's probably didn't have any availability yet. I'll talk about later. I'm going to take one of them home. This is Burning Love Lakota. I've shown this one several times. These are some big ones here. This is a 3-gallon containers. They're bigger than the one I have in the ground for the last year. Great looking plant. Gets a little insignificant flowers on it, and I can see a few on it now. But the new growth on it is just a crazy, kind of a reddish, bronzy color. And then in the winter, it becomes almost purple. I'll get up here close on this tag. I should have put that tag. In fact, I'm going to skip back and show you that tag real quick on that Indian Hawthorne. There's the Indian Hawthorne tag. So it says 2 to 3 feet in height, 3 to 4 feet in width, and zone 7 to 10. Again, no off switches on these plants. Probably end up slightly taller. This is going to be a big seller. This is mini touch holly. This is like soft touch holly, but it's more compact. The leaf internodes are closer together. The leaves are smaller, really very boxwood-like, but it's a Japanese holly. You can see how tightly, how tight the growth habit is on this thing. It's really kind of amazing how compact that is. It looks like a chia pet. I mean, if I had to give it a name, but there's the, it's only going to get, you can keep this thing less than 2 feet by 2 feet forever. Hardy in 6 to 9, like most Japanese hollies, but I think these are just going to be super, super popular. Hopefully the growers are going to pick these up quick and get going with them, because I imagine lots of them will get sold. Here's those touch of gold hollies I said were coming up. There's some 2-gallon ones down on the ground and some 3-gallon ones up on the table. This is a gold Hugendorn holly, and we get in here close to that tag. Hopefully you can read that. 2 to 3 feet in height, as much as 4 feet in width. Keep it whatever size you want to keep it. Hardy in zone 6 to 9, but just incredibly colorful like that. And I'm going to turn around real quick, let you guys see the other side of this greenhouse. Those are sunshine ligustrum rooted cuttings, and then right there, that's touch of gold. Those plants are only in little 2-inch pots, so there's thousands and thousands of them there. I mean, it's maybe 10 thousands, tens of thousands. Those are, that's how colorful they are, even as a little teeny tiny rooted cutting. Same thing with the sunshine. Same thing with the sunshine ligustrum over there. It's a very large house, as you can see, that I'm standing in. Then here's the Beijing Beauty Mahonia. Again, this is another one I'm hoping growers will really like as much as I do. When I originally took this plant home, maybe a year and a half to 2 years ago, I got a really small little 1-gallon plant, and it only had like one tiny branch on it. It just wasn't that impressive. I put it in the ground. There just weren't any available of any size. I put it in the ground, and now you guys have seen, if you're watching the weekly update videos, this is what it looks like now. But mine's not quite that tall. I think this one in this decorative container has probably been close to another one, which is making it kind of stretch up a bit. But mine is a little less tall than that and a little wider than that in the ground. This is Beijing Beauty, hardy in 7 to 9. I think you could probably keep it 3 feet tall, but probably gets 4 or 5 if you just let it over a long period of time. See the flowers on it? It'll do that for about 6 months. That's not an exaggeration. There's a bee has found his way into this house and is working on those flowers over there. But this thing just blooms and blooms. Anytime you get cool nights, but not cold, from about mid-September until May, this thing is blooming. And every single one of these is blooming. You see it? They're not the most significant flowers in the world, but the bees are all over them. There's another bee's just come in here. Different bee than the other one right there, but they absolutely love them. I told you I was going to show you that Bohemian Beauty Lakota. So we saw it with the new foliage is pink, and then from that it kind of settles into being really very bright white. And then over time, the oldest of the branches on it become green. And so you have, it says the variegation is just all over it's just wild, but it evolves like that. So it goes from the pink to really vivid white to darker green, and then the oldest branches down in the middle of it are green. It's just such an interesting plant. Again, it is a flowering plant, but it's not, it's not the most showy thing. It's, for flowering, but it's incredibly showy in the garden. I've got this thing planted in park shade at the house, and it is in love with the spot it's in. It's in actually some dry shade, but these will take, shady spaces that are slightly more wet and mound them up a little bit if you do plant them in a situation like that. But this Bohemian Beauty Lakota wheat is a good one. Here are the, I think all of the Abelia in the collection. You've got Radiance. I have 3 of these Radiance in my front garden at the house. I think these are a little dry. I think I'll pull a water hose over here after I talk about them for a few minutes. And then one that's just a more pink version of it right there. It's got a little more pink. And I'll pull the camera up on that. Calling that one Suntastic Pink. And again, they got the white flowers against variegated foliage. Pollinators love them. Hardy up to zone 6. And then I've got this Miss Lemon in the back garden. Miss Lemon tends to have a little more pink in the flower, and that's showing up in that one. I don't think you'll be able to tell it from that. And this one's called Suntastic Peach, and it has a bit more orange in the variegation. So we've got kind of a pink in the variegation, and this one has a more orangey variegation. And then back there is a Kaleidoscope. Kaleidoscope is almost all of these are going to be, you can keep any of them less than 3 feet in height. I always feel like Radiance is probably the easiest to keep that low, and all of them are evergreen. In zone 6, these are hardy up to zone 6. Sometimes they'll thin a little bit more in the winter, so than they will in zone 7, 8, or 9. So just letting you know that they'll be evergreen, but it will be a little bit thinner in your area. And they don't get started blooming till summer, and then they just bloom all summer long. See, there's some more of those Diamond Spire gardenias that we saw in the first video. And again, hopefully these tags show up. The light is tough in here. When those tags show up, get it right there. Yeah, there you go. Great upright habit. And you can see that's just how they grow. The most interesting gardenia I've ever seen. Okay, so here is a new It's a Breeze rose. This one's called Ivory Blush. And let me flip this tag over. 3 feet high, 3 to 4 feet wide. Literally everyone watching pretty much grow this plant. This is hardies from zone 4 to 11. I've had It's a Breeze red in my landscape the last 2 years. It was blooming when I left the house. It's in there right there. Here's a big group of them. I'll go around and get a better angle on those in just a minute. But this white one, I think, is going to be really, if it blooms, if it's anything like the It's a Breeze red, it's just going to be a great landscape plant. My It's a Breeze red, I don't think we've had to prune a limb or two off because it grows wider than tall, and it's gotten a little wider. A couple times I've cut a couple branches off of it, but other than that, I haven't touched it. It blooms pretty much nonstop. I have mine in park shade, but of course roses would probably prefer more sun than that. But then this one, so this one is It's a Breeze Ivory Blush, and you can, I think, see why. You see the blush pink. You see they kind of open with a little bit of pink in it and then become more white. And then coming around this way, before we do the rose, I'll show you, there's a group of Stellar Ruby magnolias across the back. Really nice ones, 7-gallon containers going across the back of this display. Cast in bronze Distillium in front of that. And then this big group of It's a Breeze red roses. Mine is about 2, I mean, the tag on this one says 2.5 feet tall and 3 to 4 feet wide, and I would say that's absolutely accurate. It has not tried to get taller than that. It's just tried to get wider and easy to control. Starts blooming when any other rose will bloom in the spring, and then puts on a big show, kind of slows down, puts on some new growth when it feels like it, and blooms again, and does it repeatedly. Really super disease resistant. One other thing on this It's a Breeze rose, these are being grown down on the Gulf Coast, and for, you know, as much humidity as we're talking about, as much rain as we're talking about, overhead irrigation that we're talking about, when you're growing down here on the Gulf Coast, you have to use a very light soil mix. So up where I was in North Carolina, we probably have a little more sand in our containers, a little finer bark potentially in our containers, and we could conserve a little more water in the container. But down here on the Gulf Coast, where they can get day after day after day of afternoon thunderstorms, these pots have to drain extremely well. And I mean really drain extremely well. So that humidity, it's tough growing conditions down here. They get a long growing season, but you do have to think through it quite a bit more. And these things just look absolutely fantastic, giving probably what are poor conditions for roses in a nursery setting with the kind of watering we're talking about, you know, and overhead irrigation they're having to do when it's not raining. They're constantly keeping the leaves wet. I'm just blown away how clean this rose actually is. So one of my favorite plants in the landscape the last couple years. So thank you guys for watching, and taking other things that I didn't show in these two videos home, and I'll show them to you, you know, as growers are growing them and there's more availability on them, and just lots of exciting new things coming to the Southern Living Plant Collection and Encore Azaleas and the Sunset Plant Collection, and some new boxwoods that I'm really excited to start talking about. And again, I have the 4 of them planted in my landscape, ready, honestly just ready for you guys to be able to find them out in the retail world. Thanks for watching.